Bring it in committee. Questions of staff? Councillor Davis.
So we have a whole number of deputants who are suggesting a whole range of changes that are not, maybe, I guess, consistent with our policies. I wonder if you could just comment in general about some of the, respond to some of the calls, such as for a bylaw, for the default, I forget what it's called, which the open data, default open data in particular.
Mr. Chair, in fact, we have in the City of Toronto an open information by default standard, and it has been in place for a number of years. The difficulty is, as some of the deputants have indicated, that it requires an enormous amount of culture change in the city in order to make that happen. The Open Government Committee has been diligent for a number of years now at trying to get cooperation from its senior partners across the organization to release that data. The report sets out a number of issues that we have run into. But I would say our policies are phenomenally current. In fact, our policies of, requiring, in fact, we're the only municipality that I'm aware of anywhere that has an information accountability policy, making everyone in this organization accountable and responsible for their information. That is certainly something that has not been carried forward into the management control checklist, which all managers are required to fill out every year with their supervisor. But we have probably the most robust information policies of any municipality in the country in place. It takes time to get the culture to change. I think this meeting is a great push in the right direction to make that happen. But I don't think there's anything wrong with our policies. I think we need to be a little bit more diligent in how they are enforced and where they are enforced, as the deputants have indicated.
And where is that enforcement mechanism? You're saying it's through the management accountability mechanisms?
I would suggest that that is the appropriate place. That is an HR tool, which all non-union staff are required to complete as appropriate, which requires us to do everything from ensure that we have a risk management process in place, and it would certainly also be the place to ensure that we have our information open. As I said, we have the policy, we need the push through an enforcement mechanism.
So in your report you identify, I think you called it a full management cycle or something like that, and it included or life cycle management. And so that life cycle management approach, and it requires every division to make sure that their data is examined for privacy, for accuracy, making sure it's up to date, etc. Is this the kind of thing that's not happening in the divisions with the data that they have? So
Well, I
that
think-
you would not be confident in having that data released and open? I'm struggling still to
Well, I
understand.
think, well, the life cycle concept is one that we refer to, and it's an old records management term, which we've applied now to data and managing the open data, because it's a matter of making sure in the first instance that it gets out, that it has been vetted for the various privacy issues. That needs to be done in any event. And there isn't a whole lot that is problematic with that respect, but there is a need to make sure that the data is always current. And
Right, I understand that.
that's what life cycle refers to. So it's a matter of keeping it current, maintaining it, upgrading it, and ensuring that the community that uses the data has knows that there have been changes made.
But there are no recommendations here. So I guess I'm trying to understand if we want to move this forward and there are problems or challenges with implementation of what you say is a good policy, why are there no recommendations? Where are the directions?
This is actually, Mr. Chair, the very first time this city has, on any kind of committee agenda, been able to address the issue of open data. So in that respect, it's a watershed moment. And I think this is precisely the kind of opportunity that we've been looking for to bring the issues and the concerns and the needs of the open data program to the forefront.
Why did you not put recommendations in? I guess I'm still struggling. Or the city manager didn't. I don't know whether the deputy city manager wants to comment. I don't get a sense there's a direction here. There's an information report.
We were asked to write a report by the chair of this committee, and we have done that. This was a report intended to outline the program, describe the issues and the barriers, and that's what we've done.
I'm sorry, Councillor.
I just wondered whether you wanted to also comment on recommendations and directions. There don't appear to be any recommendations and direction, and yet we had many, many deputants who had lots of recommendations, and I'm anxious without a staff report that gives us specific recommendations. Although I think the chair's motion is going to be to refer it.
I'll invite actually Rob Meikle, our CIO, to talk about and just comment on our directions and what we have been doing.
Thank you, Rob.
No, I don't want a whole long thing about what we've been doing. I just want to understand. Clearly we have some directions. We've asked for a report, and there are some challenges. Why there aren't recommendations on next steps?
Through the chair, to not to duplicate the comments, but to agree with the comments that were made by our city clerk. We responded to the original motion was to provide this information. If you're asking for us to go back and provide some specific recommendations associated with these priorities that we've provided, we can certainly do that too.
Okay.
All right, other questions of staff?
Just one more about MLS, for instance. I mean, we heard MLS has a lot of data on property standards violations, orders, compliance, and so on. Is that information that's available as open data?
I understand that that's not currently on open data.
Would anyone know why? Is it privacy issues? Is it?
I would think that to some extent that's exactly the issue. These are orders against individuals, and that would need to be vetted.
I'd love to know the names of these landlords and property owners, frankly, but I hope we'll get that very soon.
Okay, other questions of staff? Any other questions of staff? Councillor Nunziata, do you have questions of staff? Councillor McConnell? No? Okay. I don't either. I do have a motion I'm moving. Sorry, you want to speak? Okay, sorry. Councillor Grimes? Sorry, speakers, my fault. Councillor Grimes?
No problem, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. I have a motion I'm going to move here. The City Clerk and Chief Information Officer requested to hold a community consultation information meeting on the open data in the city policy and opportunities for public engagement and participation. Now, we heard our last speaker, Mr. Richardson, said we didn't need that, but I think we may need that here. And I left it very open for staff to bring that back when they do. So, I mean, you've seen the speakers list here. It's a whole gamut of different stakeholders here that are looking for information. That's the future. There's a huge thirst for information, and how we deliver that is going to be the big question in the next few years. So I just think it'd be great to get that public in front, and all these experts here that are looking for the information from staff, and I think the discussion that could take place at this consultation and information meeting could help staff guide things that may come back. So I would leave that to staff to bring that back at the appropriate time and get that off when appropriate. So I just left it open for that. But I just think that's the future of this world. People want information. I own a business also in the transportation side that we are in business because we have the information in our industry, and that's how we're in business. So I think it's the future, and I think you have some motions coming, Mr. Chair, but I'll move that and have staff deal with that as they see fit.
Thank you, Councillor Grimes. Other speakers? Sure. Councillor Davis? Oh, okay. All right. Question, Councillor Grimes?
Councillor Grimes, your motion is to hold a community consultation information meeting. How many? Just downtown, or are you suggesting in the various?
Well, I just leave it to staff to deal with that. I know we just had a big information meeting on the noise bylaw in the City of Toronto the other day. So let's get these people in, let them, can get the information from staff, ask questions. There could be some great discussions that take place there. So again, I'm going to leave that to.
So let the staff determine that.
Yeah, so I
Okay,
mean,
thank
I'll
you.
let them, I left it very loosey-goosey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks.
Yeah.
Councillor Davis to speak?
Well, this is not an area I know very much about at all, and so this has been quite intriguing for sure, as well as informational. So I'm happy to have a report back. I know there's about 27 different things on the motion. 20. I have no idea whether that list of things on the chair's report request are appropriate or are consistent with our policies, whether they are things I would support it also in. I will vote for this motion, but it's not because I am indicating my agreement on the list of things that are going to be contained in this motion. I also know that one of my concerns would be the accuracy of our data and who's going to maintain accuracy, privacy issues, and so on, and potential costs associated with ensuring that this data is accessible. So I still have an open mind, but a cautious feeling about what we are capable of providing. So I will support a report request, for sure. And I would end with, this report doesn't really tell me enough to know what the challenges are and how the challenges can be addressed. If there's a section on challenges, and I hear there's a culture issue. Often a culture issue has to do with way too much workload, which is another thing, and insufficient capacity within the organization to do this extra whatever workload this will be. So, I mean, I hope that we can understand the resource requirements, staffing requirements, and all of the additional work that would be associated with moving this agenda forward. Because I suspect, while you could put another check mark on the box on the manager's list of things they have to have advanced, such as workplace health and safety or access and equity initiatives or whatever, you can't just keep adding greater and greater accountabilities if there are no resources within the organization to actually deliver on those initiatives. So I hope the report will address those things as well.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Davis. Other speakers? No? Councillor Nunziata?
I understand, Mr. Chair, you're moving a motion with a number of recommendations. So you haven't moved those recommendations yet, but I'm going to speak. I will support Councillor Grimes' motion as far as the committee meeting, but your recommendations, a number of, I don't even know how many there are, I will not support. You know, I mean, I think we need to hear what the public has to say through the consultation meeting, but to add more reports back from our staff, and you have a number of other items here that you're asking staff to report back, and if they don't have resources, I mean, you're moving these recommendations for the staff to report back next month or in April, and I will not support that recommendation. I will wait until the consultation meeting and see what comes out of there, and then whatever recommendations is brought forward to the public process, then maybe at that point I will support any further recommendations, but I will not be supporting your recommendations.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Nunziata. Councillor McCollum, did you want to speak? No? Okay. All right, so I'm going to speak last. I have a motion that I'm putting forward. It's asking for a report. It has 20 asks within that report. The asks are actually a compilation of the presentations that we saw this morning. I want to begin by thanking the deputants for all coming in this morning. When the government management agenda first went live, I had a lot of people asking how they could make a deputation this morning on this, so I want to thank them for coming in. I want to... Sure. Sorry, I'm not asking for 20 recommendations, Councillor Nunziata. I'm asking for 20 different components. All right? So I also want to say I'm not trying to disparage any of the work that staff are doing. Like the City Clerk's office under Ms. Wakas has done a lot of work with an open government, open data committee that's been trying to bring staff together. I want to thank Rob Meikle for the work that he's been doing to date as the city's CIO since he's come to the City of Toronto. One of the issues I do want to address through this report is accountability, and the number of issues around accountability and looking at data sets and how we use them for accountability to enhance the business climate in the City of Toronto. For example, in Scarborough, the majority of our businesses now have 5 employees or less, and a lot of them are involved in the information and technology sector. There was comments, once again, about accountability, and a couple of things that stand out for me. For example, one of the reports that we're just moving deals with location devices on our vehicles. We just launched an app this week where you can track city snowplows. We have no capacity to track garbage delivery, for example. I've had a lot of people that say to me, you know, why you can track when my snowplow is coming, why can't I track when my garbage truck is coming and when I have to put my garbage truck out at the curb? One of the business owners talked about bylaw enforcement. You know, last summer, my family, we visited the city of New York City. We were trying to find a hotel to visit. There's actually a website that you can go to that tracks bed bug infestations by neighborhood in the city in New York City. So you can figure out what hotel you want to go to, where you want to stay, and how bed bugs impact that area. There's nothing like that in the City of Toronto. You can go to the data subsets in our open data site. They're not always up to date. They're not always in the same format. There's no contact information there. If somebody actually uses one of our data subsets and it's changed, there's no contact information to that person about that the data subset has been changed. There's, you know, I was just recently at the Mars Innovation Center for a conference on technicity, and I had a number of small business owners come to me. They're in the information and technology sector, and they talked about the hurdles that they see with our open data and engaging government. And this isn't all about you know, the economic impact of, you know, helping businesses. It's helping residents engage their government to make this city better. You know, in the report, it talks about the Canadian municipalities' open data. We're ranked second to the City of Edmonton. if you rank us to other major municipalities across North America, we're very far down the list. When we're supposed to be the economic engine of southwestern Ontario, if not Canada, I think it's very important that we be using all the tools we can to leverage those benefits of being the largest city in Canada, if not in this region. And one of the other deputants also mentioned engineers and University of Waterloo and enhancing their engineering program. There's an educational component to this as well. So I'm asking for this report. I'm asking my colleagues not to be scared or hindered by the different components here. There's nothing earth-shattering here. You know, in terms of a community meeting, you know, we can hold a community meeting, you know, it might be good, we'll bring more people to the table. But to address Councillor Nunziata's concerns, if we don't pass these recommendations and move this report forward, and we just have a community meeting, I can pretty much tell you, Councillor Nunziata, that the deputants that you saw here this morning will be the same ones back at that community meeting, and there'll be more people saying the same thing, that things need to be advanced in the City of Toronto, that we are doing good work, but there's much more to be done, which is why I'm asking for this report to move forward with recommendations. Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Grimes first.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to be supporting your motions, but your referral motion kills my number one motion. I just wonder if we can put that in on the top, the item be referred and request, slide that in as a friendly at the top. I'd let the clerk put that in where it should go because your referral motion kills my motion. So if we could do that, the item be referred and request, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong motion.
You want to incorporate it into my motion?
Yes, at the top.
Okay, all right.
Is that a friendly? Sorry? Well, I'll leave that to the clerk, where it should go in there, but we'll just slide in the first paragraph, because if you refer, you kill my motion.
In the second line. Okay.
Okay, so my motion is fine, I'm being told. So it is fine, so I thought the referred
All right.
killed it, so we're good to leave the way it is? In my-
Okay.
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 And if they just run in conjunction with yours.
All right. Councillor McConnell, you had a question of the mover?
Yes, I do. So I just want to understand sort of, what I'm hearing is we got a problem with implementation. We don't have a problem with policy, we have a problem with implementation. So I just want to make sure that this fits in with the implementation question, right? So we would have a community consultation, as I understand it. This would have been referred to the city clerk and others, all of these recommendations. And then after that consultation, there would be a report back to this committee on the implementation plan. Is that correct?
Yes.
And some of these will be addressed in the implementation plan. Is that correct?
Yes.
Some of them may not be, like some of them they may say, well, this one really doesn't need to happen, or this one does. But the process that I'm hearing is we'll have a meeting, we'll talk about implementation, and we'll report an implementation plan back here. Is that correct?
Yes. For example, on number 4
Yes.
in the report I'm asking for, continue to identify and promote a staff member as the open data champion. Originally, I identified that as the city manager. The city clerks, you know, they're doing an excellent job. They have an open data committee that I've been to with lots of city staff. You know, I amended that, took the city manager's office out.
Right, but what I'm asking you is, you are not today identifying and promoting a staff member as the champion. You
No.
are not today making the open deliverables for all RFPs. What you're doing today, as I understand it, is we're setting up a community discussion with people who know about this, and then we're asking the city clerk and the chief information officer to bring us back an implementation, and everybody's okay with that. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right,
Yeah.
good, thank you.
Yeah, so I'm not asking for anything to be written in stone. I'm asking for staff to look back at this. Okay? All right? Okay, so,
I would like to make a further amendment if I could.
I don't know, what's the amendment?
Just to make it clear that these are not directives in this motion.
just said that.
The city councillor must, or the clerk must not bring back. So the motion, if I could, after the following, in the first paragraph, into the City of Toronto open data policy, including the possibility of the following, so that it's more clear that these are possible, but they're not necessarily givens. That
So
she
this
will-
says they report back to the Government Management Committee regarding incorporating the following into the City of Toronto open data policy.
regarding the possible incorporation of the following. How about that?
Sure, I'm okay with that.
Regarding the possible incorporation.
Okay, I'm fine with that. I'm not sure the clerk's there yet.
You're all right? We're all happy?
No.
Okay. We're just waiting for the word possible.
It's
Yes,
in.
okay. All right. All. Okay. Councillor Grimes, sir? Okay, Councillor Grimes' motion first. All in favor? Opposed? That carries. My motion, all in favor? Opposed? And that carries. Item is amended. All in favor? Opposed? And that carries.